You're on CYInterview. I'm Jay Bilstein. Tonight on CYInterview, we have the honor of speaking with three extraordinary human beings. They've recently returned from Ukraine, where they brought medical supplies to people in need. Perhaps what's most compelling about these individuals is that they could have simply made donations to help the people suffering there, but instead, they brought the aid there themselves. It's a fascinating story, digging deep into the meaning and nature of commitment. With us is Luis Vega. Mr. Vega is currently the executive director of the Crone Breakthrough Foundation. He's a former Ranger qualified U.S. Army infantry captain who did a combat tour in Afghanistan. He's a Bronze Star recipient and has spent the last 6 years leading nonprofits with a passion for veteran suicide prevention. Luis, it's a pleasure to have you with us this evening on CYInterview.
Jay, the honor is mine. Thank you.
And joining Mr. Vega is Mr. Sean Callagy. He's the name partner of Callagy Law, a New Jersey-based law firm, and he's the founder and visionary behind Unblinded, which strives to impart people with the tenets of integrity-based human influence. Great to have you here, Sean.
Jay, it's an honor. I heard so many great things about you. Thank you for having us.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've heard phenomenal things about you, and I've also seen you doing some phenomenal things, so the honor and pleasure are all mine. And last but not least is our old friend, Rob Gill. Mr. Gill is the founder and managing director of Epic Financial Services. I met Rob years ago when he was in one of my training programs. Years later, I had the pleasure of providing him with a training program for his company. It's good to be speaking with you again, Rob, here on CYInterview.
Jay, it's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for allowing us to share this opportunity with you.
Well, it's an amazing opportunity, and I'll tell you what, and I don't want to give too much away right now, but from the videos you have been sending me from Ukraine, I mean, I know you gentlemen have a lot to say, and well, of course, rounding out this esteemed panel and joining me as always is the editor-in-chief of CYInterview, Mr. Chris Yandak. How are you this evening, Chris?
I'm great. It's great to be here with so many accomplished people.
Indeed, indeed. Luis, let me begin with you. How did this all come about?
Jay, thank you. I mean, this was such a organic mission from the beginning. I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version, but I'm fairly new to the organization and running the foundation for Chris, and I had my first board meeting. The invasion had just happened, early February, and as a veteran, I had a passion to take action and to serve, and it was pulling to not just sit on the sidelines. And so I said, you know, I know Chris's heart, and he's gonna want to take action. So first board meeting, a little nervous, the new guy, and I said, Chris, I have your humanitarian arm of the foundation. I say we do humanitarian run in Ukraine. I have contacts, boots on ground with the SOF community, the Special Forces community there, and I'm not going to lie, like there's an opportunity for you to go, for us to go, but there's risk, and I want to be absolutely certain that I will mitigate that, but where are your feelings at? And I'll tell you that I knew I made the right call by making the leap to join this amazing foundation, because Chris said, brother, we're taking my jet, we're going to take my closest and highest esteemed colleagues who can their generosity is the most, and they can give the most, and they're going to come with us. And from there, it was fire hosing it, moving 100 miles a second to raise $1 million in 40 days in order to purchase upgrade a G5 Gulfstream jet to take 2,500 pounds of vital medical supplies that were custom ordered from the front lines of Ukraine on the Eastern Front in hospitals and aid centers that didn't have these and couldn't order them and get them shipped because they weighed too much. to bring him commercially. So from there, Jay, it was just assembling, in my opinion, an Avengers-style team of heroes and patriots and leaders of their industry, from real estate to veterans and, all in between, a 10-person team to go execute this mission and save lives in Ukraine.
Now, Luis, you're a retired captain, Army Infantry. You won a Bronze Star. You did a combat tour in Afghanistan. You are no stranger to being in harm's way. What do you make of business people with families who may have not served in the military like you, who could have easily sat back and said, we'll raise money, we'll send money, but instead said, no, we're coming along? I mean, did that set you back? Were you surprised by that attitude from these gentlemen?
100%. As a combat vet, I knew that there was risk, and I could not take it all the way with the indirect fire threat almost at all levels of that country. And Chris made it clear that his wife, Colin, was not going to come, and usually she comes on these humanitarian missions because they were not going to leave their children orphaned in the worst case scenario. And when we started with a larger list of these, what we did call power funders, because they were the lifeblood of the success of this mission. And they started initially, Jay, to drop off. And I was getting a little bit pessimistic and also a little bit down to say, man, I don't know how I can ensure and provide, the operation plan, the operations order. And I was getting all these PowerPoints and pushing it. And there was this core group that remained, these patriots that said, I have everything to lose, but the fulfillment, the ability to utilize the foundation, Chris Crone Foundation, as a vehicle to give back, and not only give back, and as you said, Jay, because anybody could do that and write a check, and you could do it to, Angelina Jolie was in Lviv with a nonprofit, putting a bunch of money, and I hope they go to great work, because some of these NGOs do great work, but their supplies end up rotting in a giant warehouse because they can't get the logistics to get it to the front lines in time. And I said, we need to get it personally there. That's how we're going to separate ourselves from every other player. And these titans within their industry decided to risk it all and give their trust in me, and that did not come lightly for me. And let me trust you, I burned a lot of midnight oil to ensure we establish corridors of safety, alternate routes, layers of OPSEC, Operation Security, sat phones with grid locations, actions on contact for IEDs, airstrikes, anything from even a troubled checkpoint. And they came and executed so efficiently that I would go to battle with any of these men, and one of our sisters, one woman that came with us, any day.
Just absolutely amazing. Sean, you're a family man. I believe you're legally blind. You run a law firm. You've got Unblinded, which is a movement and entity doing excellent work. What was the impetus? What was present for you at the time that you said, you know what? I'm going to Ukraine instead of simply raising money to help?
No, thanks for the question, Jay. So initially, I did have some hesitancy. I am blind, and one of my missions and outcomes in the world is to disrupt how people perceive blind people. So I do a lot of adventurous things. When this came into play, though, and I scuba dive with sharks, I ski in serpent hurricanes, I ski double black diamonds. This is not that. And, I think people exaggerate risk very often. And as I was talking to Rob initially about it, I'm like, brother, this is not an exaggerated risk. And this is straight up war zone, uncontrolled variables all over the place. But then, Jay, as I began to think about it, I thought of the impact. I thought of the cost benefit, the risk calculus. And in it, at the end of the day, my bottom line conclusion, as I talked to my children about it, 22, 20, 18, all in college. My son just graduated from college. I said, I have to do this, because they're like, Dad, what are you, nuts? What are you doing? And I said, I want to stand for people being the they. And in being the they, instead of criticizing those people over there or leaving solutions to people over there, I perceive this to be an unbelievable opportunity to do good for people suffering and to be an extraordinary example of how we can cause outcomes and not sit back and talk about problems or criticize others about what they do or don't do, but actually to be the they, and to do it with Luis, Rob Gill, Chris Crone, and the Crone Foundation. It was one of the greatest honors of my life, and the benefit of having done this was 1,000 times the risk.
And you did take significant risk. I do believe at one point in time, Rob sent me a video, and you and Rob were on a roof. I believe Chris was on a roof too, and you were looking, and I think at the time Rob said it was just 2 miles away, and I saw smoke coming up from somewhere, and I believe that was a missile. And I mean, those missiles, 2 miles away with a missile, that missile could have hit you guys. So, I mean, this was as real as it gets. And you said something so powerful, Sean. Being the they. I saw a movie not too long ago called The Two Popes about, it was Pope Benedict who was retiring and Pope Francis was coming in. And I think at some point Pope Francis, I think it was in the movie where there was a quote where he said something like, when it's nobody's fault, it's everybody's fault. And I think that plays into the concept of they, right? Well, it's not my responsibility. This nebulous they will do it. And what you've done is you've readily identified, in truth, there is no they if it's not us. And I think that is remarkably powerful, but what is so inspiring is you didn't write about it, you didn't talk about it, you didn't raise money about it, you did it. So just absolutely amazing. And last but not least, Rob, I've known you to be dynamic. I've known you to be charismatic. I've known you as an athlete. I've known you as a high-level performer in sales. I also know you as a family man, a wife, 3 kids. You run a financial services company. What caused you to take the risk of going to Ukraine to bring aid?
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for everything you just said. And for me, I've had the good fortune of being partners with Sean and Chris. And as a result of it, the business has accelerated. So in December, Robert Jr. gets cut from JV basketball. And as you know, basketball is a very dear thing in the Gill family. And we all kind of looked around at each other, and we couldn't believe it. So it was like, Rob, what do you want to do? You want to run track, or you want to kind of play basketball? He said that he was willing to do whatever it took, within integrity and reason. So I began to coach him with trainers, and there was a basketball team that they had in January and February called the Cut Crew, which was all the kids that didn't make the team. And it was an unbelievable experience, and it reminded me of helping other alcoholics achieve sobriety, right? So I began to think about, I've been donating a lot of money to charity lately, and I just need more. I can't just write a check. And Rob started playing AAU with a better team, and the experience got better and better. And I was kind of away from the office more than I had been in about 10 years. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, as I was letting it out to the universe that I wanted to do more, Chris calls me and asks me the question about the Ukraine. It was an immediate yes. However, I wanted to make sure the insurance companies would cover, God forbid, if something happened to my wife. So from the beginning, it was yes. I knew about the conference. I knew what I was looking for, Jay. And then it was just a matter of Luis systematically taking me through 5 or 6 conversations where I began to feel more and more comfortable. But by the way, as we went through the process, it was originally, hey, we're going to go to Poland. And then it was, all right, we're going to go to Poland, and then we're going to go to the compound right across the border. And then it was like, all right, we're going to go to Poland, the border, Lviv, and then it was, we're going to go to the border, Poland border, Lviv, and then Kyiv. And oh, by the way, we're now 26 miles away from Russia. So at one point, me and Sean were in the back of the car, and we're saying when they do the movie, this is the part where we should have said no, because we just kept saying yes to everything. The journey was incredible. As you know, I sent you every video along the way because of how much I love you and how important you are to me. And that's it. That's really what it was. It was about touching lives, one life, one day, every day for 5 days, that maybe in the next generation they can make the world a better place. And that was really my thinking the whole way through.
Well, you know, as I said at the outset, Rob, what you did with Chris, with Sean, with Luis, and the rest of your team goes to the very heart, the meaning and nature of the word commitment. And I think that, you know, so many of us complain about so many things in life, talk about first world problems, and you guys just put every single bit of that aside. And I really like how Sean contextualized it, you know, being the them. And that's what you did, and I think it is just absolutely amazing, absolutely important, and absolutely inspirational. Chris?
All of you, I would love to hear from each of you what it was like to be in Ukraine and what your most important takeaways are from having been there. First, Luis.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, man, I got emotional. I'm typically try to remain composed, but it was such a success of a mission where we hit every objective and every milestone. And briefly, it was short-term impact, direct supplies, food, shelter, cold weather gear, for orphans, women's camp, refugees camp, and then long-term value by establishing these corridors to have extraction routes, which are, we can talk about in a bit, ongoing operations right now for extraction. So when all that happened and I got to come home, everyone came home safely, it felt like I got back from a deployment because in a way we all bonded as brothers and we really kind of just felt like a family, and I felt like I was made a commitment to my wife to get everyone home safe, and secretly commitment to all of them, and prayed for their families too, because I felt I had a big responsibility on my shoulders. And then on top of getting everyone home safe, it was I can leave a legacy of giving to Serafina, my daughter, and say when the world was hurting and a dictator that wanted the days of empire back invaded a sovereign country, your dad didn't just stand on the sidelines. He took action. He, helped assemble a team, these people who didn't have to go, and together they made an impact. They made a difference, and it was direct, and it was long-lasting, and everyone came home safe.
Sean, same question. What was it like to be in Ukraine, and what was your most important takeaway from being there?
No, Chris, thank you. Two enormous takeaways. First is that people love and need America. And we have such a massive distortion, in my humble opinion, of the way that our country shows up and is perceived as people make money in the media, highlighting and exaggerating the division that exists and how we are perceived worldwide. To a person, from people taking care of orphans, to people running refugee camps, to military personnel, to volunteers, to restaurant owners, every person we encountered was civil, loving, open, and grateful. And second, the resiliency of human beings screamed from every portion of the Ukraine. At the border, Lviv, Kyiv, Bucha, Irpin. And the same day that missiles went over our head, a missile went over our head, 4 other missiles hit Kyiv. and it was a mile and a half away. The smoke was rising. An hour later, we had soft serve vanilla ice cream, and it was delicious. And brick oven pizza. As people were doing what they needed to do to survive, to protect their freedom in their country, as bombs are going off near them, as mines have been laid all over the place around the city and the suburbs, and homes destroyed. In Irpin, 72% of the homes were damaged. In Bucha, 33% of the homes were damaged. And these people were continuing on. So the resiliency of humanity and its fight for freedom inspired me in ways that no book, no story possibly could. And those are my two biggest takeaways, Chris.
Rob, what was it like to be in Ukraine, and what was your most important takeaway from being there?
You know, I'll tell you this, and Sean did say it best when he spoke about the resiliency, and he spoke about once a missile hit and everyone felt safe, they went to go get pizza. Totally related to that. But, you know, we see movies from 400, 500, 600 years ago. I felt like I was in a time machine. I felt like I was able to go into past centuries, not willingly, of course, and I began to understand what it was like for folks that wanted to defend the country and freedom that they had. Because the passion even our interpreter had, and how she felt about the Ukraine and how proud she was of their country and their heritage, and thinking about Bucha, where you know, Russia already took over the town, but now, as we understood, some of the soldiers were somewhat intoxicated one night, and they began to execute women and children, and some more horrible things. And that is stuff that we've seen in movies that happened in the 12, 13, 14, 15, and 1600s. So I felt like I was in a time machine. I felt like I was able to understand in a way that no movie would ever help me understand or book. And taking that away and coming back home, and we all know that it just changes perspective. It's amazing that I had asked for more, and I was looking for more, and I received it.
Jay?
Well, I know Chris Crone isn't here, but Chris Crone, Luis Vega, Sean Callagy, Rob Gill, and your whole team, you stood up and you showed what is best about humanity. I hope more and more people hear about what you did, not simply so that you get the recognition, and you deserve bountiful recognition, but to inspire people that perhaps what is perceived as unlikely, impractical, or impossible is indeed very likely if we are willing to avail ourselves of a different mindset. And what a world we hopefully will have when more people understand that, in Sean Callagy's very, very eloquent words, we are the they. And for this, you were the they, and we are eternally thankful. So for Luis Vega, Sean Callagy, Rob Gill, Chris Yandak, and CYInterview, I'm Jay Bilstein.